Hi, everyone. My name is Marissa. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you for joining me. September 26th every year is National Situational Awareness Day, which means that that's just the day that we really promote how to be situationally aware. Do we know what situational awareness is? Kind of. I can't see you, so I need I need a verbal. But so it's being aware of your environment. It's being observant of the things that are happening around you. Who is in your space? Who should be there? Who shouldn't be there? What's happening? And if anything is kind of striking you as odd, that's something to be aware of. So what we're going to talk about today are 4 very easy tips to becoming situationally aware in every environment without having to put yourself in a position where you are like a shut-in. Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump right in. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, awesome. I'm just going to move my stuff around so I can see if there's anybody in the chat or anything like that. If you have any questions, I can't see you, so just kind of shout them out, or Jamie, if you want to give me some sort of like indication. I like for these to be more discussion-y and not so lecture-y. I think it's boring for everyone when I talk at you for an hour. So if you, thank you. So if you have any questions or want to participate, I do a lot of like kind of call out questions. So feel free to jump in. I just think that it makes the experience more fun and we retain more knowledge that way too. So just so you know. All right. So welcome to 4 easy tips to being situationally aware without sacrificing the college experience. All right. I do want to give a content warning or a trigger warning. We talk about scenarios. I use the legal verbiage because I think it's important that we identify things the way that they are. And so for that reason, if there's at any point you start to get overwhelmed or feel uncomfortable, start to get worked up, there's a few different things you can do. One, you can, if you're watching the recording, you can pause the video and take some time. If you're live, you can close your eyes, put your head down, take some deep breaths and decompress. You could also get up and take a walk. Just let yourself breathe and kind of process through and then come back in when you're ready. Or you can snap your fingers. If you snap your fingers, you actually trick your brain to send receptors to your fingertips and not your eyes. I use it all the time in movies when I don't want to cry. I'll just start snapping and people think I'm a lunatic, but it works. It's probably the one takeaway I have from my degree in cognitive neuroscience. So here we go. All right. So like I said, situational awareness is just being aware of your situation, being observant of your surroundings, knowing who's there, what they're doing, who is and is not supposed to be there, the things that are happening around you, and anything that might make you stop and pause and say, that doesn't feel right. So there are 4 levels of awareness. There's the white level, which is totally unaware. I recommend that nobody ever just be in totally unaware because it puts a target on your back, right? It's like walking down the street at night, not paying attention to anything, you become a target, right? I always recommend that people stay in the yellow level, the aware level. You're not tense, you're not worked up, you're still very relaxed, but you're just scanning. You're seeing the things that are happening around you and making sure that you are staying safe and the people that you are with are also staying safe. Then there's the orange, that's more alert. You've identified that something doesn't feel right, something doesn't look right. Maybe there's something happening in the corner of the room that's making you uncomfortable, giving you pause, giving you the ick, So you want to keep your eye on it. It's not an immediate threat or danger, but it's something that that could escalate to something way worse. And then there's red, being engaging in some sort of intervention, bystander intervention, getting involved. You've seen a threat, you've identified a threat. And so now you have to get out, get your friend out, do whatever you need to do for everybody to be safe. Because ultimately what we want is safety for everybody. Oops.
What do you guys feel like mostly on a day-to-day basis? Which awareness level are you at walking around campus? Like, where would you say? I'm pretty much in the yellow zone. I feel like it's pretty safe here. I'm like pretty relaxed. I'm aware. I know a lot of your faces. Some of your names I know very well from a lot of interaction. But I'm like operating mostly in the yellow zone.
I have to agree with that. Alert. Orange.
Good.
What?
What? It's always good to be alert, right? We never want to walk and be totally blissfully unaware. It makes us unsafe. It puts us in a position where we can be taken advantage of, or someone can come and steal our backpack or steal something from us when we're totally unaware. So it's amazing that most of the people in the room said yellow, right? You're aware. You like to make sure that your surroundings are safe and that you're scanning. That's amazing. That's exactly where you should be. So we're going to do some scenarios and you tell me what level of awareness using these four we should be at. So the first scenario, a person from across the bar or from across the room that you don't know buys you or brings you a drink. It could be alcoholic, could be non-alcoholic, doesn't matter. You didn't see the bartender pour it or the person pour it. They just bring it over and drop it in front of you. What level of awareness should you be at? What do you think?
I just read red.
I hear red. Why red?
There's some orange too.
Red and orange.
Yeah.
Orange. So
Okay. So
Oh, red.
first, why orange?
why red? They're being nice, but at the same time, they could have spiked it.
They could have spiked it. Right. So there's that heightened awareness of we're not really sure where this came from. We're not really sure of the person who poured it or brought it to us. So maybe we should just be a little bit hesitant to take a drink, right? And then that was for orange? Why red?
Scary stuff. Danger zone.
Why-
Danger zone.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Because if
nice
it
for
is lace, you don't want anything bad happening to you. I don't know who
That's
you
true.
are. It's a stranger.
Well,
I don't
what if it's
know
a
what kind of roofie thing you put in there. I'm not trying to know.
Awesome. So we could confirm that like that is dangerous if somebody did something to it. So I would say it's an orange. You want to be orange because you haven't identified that there is in fact a threat, but you have a heightened awareness that something could be wrong. I still would definitely not recommend take the drink, but this is not something I would say like call the police for, like call a friend to get you out for. You know, this is something I'd say, oh, thank you for the offer. I really appreciate it, but I really don't like that soda. I really don't like that drink. I'm good. I'm not drinking tonight. Whatever it is that you need to say, but I would definitely say this is orange. It's something to alert yourself to make sure that you know like someone's watching you and just be cautious. Does that make sense? Awesome. Second scenario, you're hanging out in the dorm common room watching movies, or you're hanging out in someone's room watching movies. Some of the people in the dorm that you don't know come in and join you, or some people in the building that you don't know come join you. What level of awareness should you be at?
yellow.
A yellow.
Unanimous yellow? Why? Why yellow?
Like nothing's happened that like would give you like uncomfortable vibes if they kind of just join, you know, you don't really know them yet, but they're just trying to probably just partake and socialize. Not really
Awesome.
bad.
Yeah, they haven't done anything. They're just people you don't know. And maybe they just want to come socialize. Anything else for yellow? No? Yeah, that's exactly what I said. You never know. Maybe they're just there to make a new friend. Maybe they really like that movie, you know? But being just aware and alert and like starting to watch their behavior, if anything does start to happen, at least you're alert to it. So yeah, awesome job. Yellow. This is a yellow level of awareness. And scenario 3, the friend you came to the party with is drunk. You don't think they can make it home without help. A friend of the host offers to walk them home so you don't have to worry about it and you can enjoy the party. What level of awareness should you be at?
Red.
Orange.
Red.
I heard orange and I heard red. Why orange?
Cause you don't know if they're just trying to be nice or if they're a trustful person, but there's that chance that they're trying to do something malicious, so you should get your friend out of there instead.
Yeah, so would that be orange because you've identified that somebody might be taking advantage of them? Or would that be closer to red, do you think?
I'd say orange to red.
Orange to red? Okay, why red?
I'm saying red because, at that point, it's accountability, like you came with your friend and now they're in a place where they're intoxicated, they don't know what's going on. So you should be taking care of your friend, like, just bring them with you, make sure they have somebody that they know, it's your friend at the end of the day, like, I'm not leaving my friend behind. For somebody.
Absolutely. So it's red because you've identified that there's a threat. The friend is your responsibility. You came together, make sure they get home safe. So I agree. I think it's a red alert. I think it's a red level of awareness that you have to engage on. This is actually a real scenario that happened to a friend of mine where she was very drunk and she came to the party with a friend, and a friend of the host, someone she didn't even know, offered to bring her home, and her friend said, "Oh yeah, that's perfectly fine." And then he left and did whatever he was going to do. So that put my friend in a very not uncomfortable, unsafe scenario, and something did end up happening. So like the person did sexually assault her. So I would say that when somebody that you don't know and the friend doesn't know is offering to take her home, look at that as a threat, right? There has to be another intention. Maybe there's not, but I would 100% be on my guard and say, you know what? No, like you said, that's my friend. I'll take care of them. I'll get them home. Don't worry about it. But thank you for the offer, I guess, and get your friend out and get them safe, because you don't know what's going to happen. And then if you leave them and you get drunk or vice versa, then something can happen to you too. You just don't know who's watching. So I would absolutely say that that is a red alert. So great job to everybody. Orange to red, I can totally understand heightened awareness, but this is something you'd want to actively take part in. All right. And the last scenario, you're walking around campus at night by yourself. You have headphones in or earphones in, so you can't hear what's happening around you. When you get to your dorm or your room or your car, someone you don't recognize is hanging around outside and follows you. What level of awareness should you be at?
Red, I'm
Red.
scared.
Red, scared. Actually, yeah, I don't know why I put orange. So you're absolutely right. It is a red alert. I apologize for that. So yes, you've identified a threat. Somebody is following you. Somebody's making you uncomfortable, following you to your car. It should absolutely be a red level of awareness. Sorry about that. Yeah, so there's a threat. There's a person you don't know hanging out around your car, around your dorm building. They follow you in. You just don't know what their intention is. If they're going to attack somebody, if they're going to steal something, if they're going to hurt somebody, so great job. I messed that up. That was my bad. All right, so we are going to kind of segue into consent. I think consent is really, really important to talk about because it is so necessary in every interaction, whether it's an intimate interaction or just a physical interaction like a hug. For example, my husband and I have been together for a long time, and I still ask him for consent when I want to give him a hug. Last week, a couple weeks ago, he had a really heavy phone call for work. And when he got off the call, you could just tell that he was kind of like not emotionally present anymore. He was either like in the middle of a flashback or he was just trying to process, but he wasn't like emotionally there. So instead of going over and just throwing my arms around him, even though we've been together for a long, long time, I asked him, hey, babe, can I give you a hug? Right? It was that simple and that quick. And he said yes. And then I was able to help make him feel comfortable. But had I done that and he didn't want a hug, I could have just violated his space and made him feel uncomfortable. So I think consent is important in every interaction, whether it's touching someone's arm, holding someone's hand, giving someone a hug, or something more intimate like kissing and intimate touching, things like that. So just to kind of give you a well-rounded view of consent, consent is permission to do something, right? Consent to do anything, right? Can I kiss you? Are you comfortable if we kiss? Can I give you a hug? Things like that. We need to be in possession of all of our faculties in order for us to give consent. So there are some rules to consent. In order for there to be consent, both parties need to be, depending on the state, between 16 and 18 minimum. at least 16 or at least 17 or 18, depending on the state. All parties need to be awake, so nobody can be asleep, nobody can be unconscious, aware, so in possession of all their faculties, aware of what's going on, completely cognizant of what's going on, sober, so no alcohol, no drugs involved, willing, but like enthusiastically willing, right? Who here wants to kiss somebody who's like, yeah, I guess? Nobody, right? We want the experience to be fun for everyone. And we want to kiss people who are excited to kiss us, right? And we want to enjoy intimacy with people who want to enjoy intimacy with us, who aren't just doing it like, I guess, you know? So we look for that enthusiastic yes. We need a verbal yes, an enthusiastic verbal yes. And they need to be cognitively sound. So depending on the state, there needs to be a certain level of emotional or intellectual development for them to be legally capable of consenting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. The absence of a no is not a yes. So maybe, can we talk about it later? I don't know. None of that's a yes. It needs to be an enthusiastic verbal yes. Consent can be withdrawn at any time. Does not matter where in the intimacy it happens. If somebody says, I don't really want to anymore, can we stop? I'm a little tired. I'm uncomfortable. Anything like that. Or if you see even their body gets tense or like their body language is telling you that they're not really interested anymore, just stop, right? Consent, that means consent is withdrawn. And then consent is conditional. Has anyone here ever heard of stealthing? Probably not. It happened. It was a conversation in the mid 2010s where basically consent is conditional. In this case, the condition of the consent was that a condom was present. Then at some point during the intimate act, someone removed the condom without telling the other partner and then continued to have sex. And when that condom was removed, because the condition was that there was a condom, once the condom came off, the consent was then withdrawn and that act no longer became legal. So you can put conditions on intimacy, on consent, right? So if the condition is, one party needs to be taking birth control, or one party needs to be wearing a condom, or we can't do certain things like don't touch me here, don't do this. Once that happens, once the condition is broken, that consent is no longer, that consent no longer exists, and that act is no longer consensual. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, cool. Consenting on each step, asking for consent to keep moving, right? So if you ask for consent to kiss, it does not automatically give you consent to have sex or do something else, right? Consent, checking in for each step, because again, sex, intimacy, kissing, it's all supposed to be fun for everybody, right? We want everybody to enjoy, and that means that everybody needs to feel safe. So if at any point it seems to be escalating, asking for consent, is this okay? Are you comfortable? Can we do this? Right? It's not hard. It takes 3 seconds and it really doesn't destroy the romance like people say, right? There's something very beautiful about checking in on your partner and showing them that you care, right? It elicits trust. It elicits the feeling of being supported and cared for, and like your needs and wants are important, right? So we want people to ask for consent. We want to be asked for consent. We want to be checked in on just in case, because that communication will make or break the entire experience, right? Just because somebody consented to something before doesn't mean they consent again. It doesn't matter what the length of the relationship was, how long you've known each other. You need to ask every time. Just because you consent to one thing, again, does not grant consent to others. And if at first it was a no, but through coercion, do we know what coercion is? Coercion is, say again?
Trying to convince someone to do something.
Perfect. It's trying to convince someone to do something, but it's like making them feel guilty for saying no, or making them feel guilty until they say yes. Please, but I took you out to dinner and then I've spent so much time listening to you talk about your mom. Can you just do this for me? Right? That's coercion. It's making somebody feel guilty until you get a yes. So if somebody does that, right, if they coerce you or try to persuade you or are very persistent, and then it becomes a yes, that's still a no, because you've made someone feel, or they've made you feel guilty for for not saying yes immediately. Do we have any questions about consent? If there's no consent, it's a crime. And that's the end of it, right? Every interaction needs to have consent.
We experience this, do we know the name of the person on campus we report that to? Kate Samuelson, right, thank you, Ash. Everybody knows where Kate's office is, it's upstairs in the one stop. Thanks, Marissa.
Yeah, of course. So I kind of already went over this, but you have the right to change your mind about having sex or doing anything. You absolutely can say, I'm not comfortable anymore. I'd like to stop. I'm tired. Whatever it is, you are encouraged to be open and honest with your partner so that they know how to navigate. They know how to help you and make you feel safe, right? Just because you're in their house, they bought you dinner, took you on a date, does not mean that you owe them anything. When I was in college, they used to make a joke that like, if you're going on a date, don't order the lobster, because if you order the lobster, then you have to have sex with them. And that's not true. And it wasn't a funny joke then. And it's really not a funny joke now. But, you know, just know that no matter what the scenario is, you do not owe anybody anything, right? Dates help with something, you know, letting them stay at your house. You don't owe them anything. Do we have any questions? I know that this is heavy and can be really uncomfortable. So I just want everyone to be able to air it out. And if at any point anyone has any questions and they want to type them like anonymously on Zoom, I have the chat box open. Just send me a direct message and I'll answer any questions. Sound good?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right, so trivia question. What state in the United States was the last to change their age of consent, and what was the age beforehand? What do you think? I don't expect anyone to know this, but I love guesses.
Oklahoma.
That's so funny, I was thinking that too.
Which one?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma? No, that's a good guess though. Ohio, no,
Idaho.
not Idaho. We're getting farther.
Oh, right. So Oklahoma was closer?
It's in the, I'll say it's in the southeast.
North Carolina.
Louisiana.
Georgia.
Nope. What else is in the southeast?
Florida. I don't know.
Close.
Texas.
Also close. You're right around it.
New Mexico.
Kentucky.
New Mexico's the southwest. Mississippi.
Dang.
Oh,
So in 2018, which was only 6 years ago, Mississippi changed their age of consent from 14 to 16 years old. 14. Think about who you were when you were 14 years old. Do you think you're mature enough to make those kinds of decisions? I certainly was not. I absolutely was not. I was not smart enough. I was not astute enough. I was not like defending myself enough at 14 to make such a hefty decision. So I just think that that's fascinating. Yeah, Mississippi in 2018 changed it from 14 to 16. And so these are the age of consent around the country. I think that this is like so interesting, such an interesting map, because there's such pockets of young ages in various areas. And so in case you decide to move, I know that you're probably all 17, 18 and older, right?
Is that everyone in the room in that age gap? 17 and 18? Edwin's a little older.
Yeah, I'm a little bit.
You're a little older.
18? Okay.
So I'm sure that some of you have younger siblings or younger family members or younger friends, right? So knowing this stuff, or plan to move somewhere else in the country and maybe have a family one day. So these numbers will eventually change by the time you have kids, I hope. But you know, it's just interesting to know, to see. So if you do move somewhere else, just knowing what the laws are there, you know, for the benefit of the people around you, is, in my opinion, very important. No means ask again. No, you rip that up and you throw it in fire. All right. So we're getting to the heavier stuff. And I just want to, again, give you a content warning. This is where a lot of like the legal verbiage comes into play. So drug facilitated sexual assault is what is more commonly known as date rape. The reason it's called that is because there's usually, I think somebody mentioned earlier, like roofing the drink at the bar, right? Or roofing the drink from the person who brought it to you. That is one type of date rape, of drug facilitated sexual assault. It could also be drinking too much and somebody taking advantage of that. They don't actually have to put something in your drink, right? Or giving you a drug, like giving you a joint, but don't tell you what's in it, right? Don't tell you what it is you're taking. It's hurting somebody, it's incapacitating somebody for the purpose of taking advantage of them, right? So it could be with drugs, it could be with alcohol. And don't worry, we're going to get more into what that looks like. All right. I love this video. I find him fascinating. So I don't know his name. I don't remember his name, but he was an investigator for, he was like a detective for a police department for a really long time. And so he talks a lot about, drug facilitated sexual assault and how easy it is to get, to be drugged. So I thought that this was a really interesting video.
Shoot drink. Hey, how you doing? You watch TikTok? Hey, bartender, can I get 2 milkshakes? Is it Tiffany? Tiffany, right? Those guys are gonna make it into the playoffs. Without trying, I just drugged you 4 times.
So it takes about a second for somebody to drug your drink. It does not need to be alcoholic. It could be water. It could be a soda or a juice. It could be alcohol. If everyone's okay with it, I'd like to share a personal story, and I'll be very quick. But when I was in college, I was on the student government, so I was very active, and the people I was around were very active people. So you'd think that there's like this element of responsibility and trust with them. And that's just unfortunately not true. So on Christmas, the president of the student government threw a party at his house. And so I went. I didn't really want to go. I wasn't really very close with him, and I actually found him very threatening to me. And so I wasn't going to go, but a bunch of the girls that I hung out with who were also on student government said, no, come, you should just come and we'll make sure to stay with you and watch out for you. And so I went, and I got there and asked for a glass of water, and it was probably about 8:30. And by 8:30, 9 o'clock, so within a half an hour, I was exhausted. Like I was very, very sleepy. I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore, which is unlike me because I used to be a night owl. Now I'm old and I go to sleep early. But when I was younger, I would go to sleep around 2 a.m. So staying up till 8:30, 9 o'clock was nothing. So I went over to the couch and I ended up falling asleep on some guy's shoulder. And it was really strange. It was very sudden and I didn't think anything of it. And then for the rest of the night, I remember clips, like little brief moments. I remember him waking me up, the president waking me up and on the couch and saying, hey, let's go upstairs. And I remember saying, no, I'm okay right here. And then the next thing I remember is being fireman carried up the stairs. The next thing I remember is he threw a DVD case at me back when DVDs were a thing and told me to pick out a movie. And then the next 3 things I remember were probably over the course of several hours. And it was me in compromising positions and him somewhere around my body. But I still to this day don't know what happened. And I didn't drink anything. I had some water. I had a couple sips of water before I passed out. So to this day, I still don't know what happened to me that night. I still have no idea what he put in my water, or even like where everyone was that said that they would help me. I don't recall them even being in the house, right? So it doesn't take long, and it doesn't have to be with alcohol. It can be with water because the things that they put in our drinks, the things that they drug us with are odorless, colorless, and tasteless. So I had no idea that it was there. All I know is that the next morning, I couldn't remember anything from the previous night, but I woke up at 6 a.m. and knew I had to get out of there. And that's all I know. So there are a few different ways that this can occur. Like I said, they could take advantage of someone like who has voluntarily used drugs or drank alcohol, but knowing that they are not able to consent, they do it anyways, right? Because if they have alcohol, they cannot legally consent, or they force them to consume something, whether it's spiking a drink like we saw in the video, or like what happened to me, or, you know, or giving them too much, not telling them what's in the drink, right? Giving them jungle juice. Another example from where I went to college was there was a fraternity who was notorious for doing this. They had 2 pitchers of jungle juice. One was specifically for the men and one was specifically for the women. And in the women's, they would grind up Xanax and put it in there, which would, you know, the girls would have 1 drink and then be incapacitated, and the people in that fraternity could do whatever they wanted, right? So there are a few ways that this can happen. And depending on the drug, what it's put in, et cetera, it can last between 6 and 8 hours, right? A lot of times it can be over 8 hours, like 10 hours, it'll knock you out cold. So it could look like date rape could look like somebody coercing or pressuring somebody to drink more than they are comfortable with, or like to go and take a shot if that's not something they want to do, or keep taking shots, or here, try this drink, here, smoke this weed, here, do this, here, do that, right? Kind of forcing somebody or making them feel guilty for not wanting to until they try it. Refusing to tell someone what's in their drink, or like the Xanax in the pitcher, right? Ignoring somebody if they ask for help, or refusing to help if somebody asks for help. Is all of this making sense?
Yeah.
I know it's a little heavy, so I just want you to be aware so that when you are in situations, or if you are a friend or in situations, you can see the signs before it's too late and hopefully get yourself and your friends out. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So think about movies that we've seen. And I've noticed that they've kind of done away with a lot of this type of behavior in movies, which is really, really a very good thing. So think about movies that you have seen where there has been either like a central or side plot, where we've seen either like somebody being forced to drink something they don't want to drink, or do something they don't want to do, or being taken advantage of. Can anyone think of anything? Did anyone watch 13 Reasons Why?
I couldn't even know that.
No. So that's a good example, because they went to parties and they were forced to drink, or peer pressured to drink, or coerced to drink, and then were taken advantage of. Anyone think of anything?
Wasn't there a lot of drinking in Clueless that like a while ago?
In Clueless? When in Clueless?
I don't know. That's the movie that comes to mind. Was there? Getting drunk in Clueless? Okay, maybe.
They were drinking, but I remember the party scene is what you're talking about. When they went to the valley. So I don't believe that anything happened. I think they were drinking, but it seemed very like consensual, very communicative. So this is the list of movies that I came up with. Anyone seen Superbad? The entire premise of that movie was that Jonah Hill, Michael Cera, and McLovin wanted to go and get the girls drunk so that they'd have sex with them. That was like the whole premise of the movie. They needed to get the alcohol to the party, right? Or American Pie, Stifler's entire character, that was like his go-to. 16, anyone seen, it's a little old. Anyone seen 16 Candles? Yeah. Yay, we got one. Okay. So in 16 Candles, forget the lead guy's name, Jake. His girlfriend got really, really drunk, right, at a party, and he literally handed her to another guy and was like, go crazy, do whatever you want. Like, she's yours now, right? So she couldn't consent. She was intoxicated, could barely stand. And he like passed her off to a guy who was like, yeah, okay, I'll just go do whatever I want with her, right? So we saw it a lot in the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000s in movies, where it was like very acceptable to pass people around, to get people drunk and not care about, you know, what happens to them. That has since changed, which is amazing. And I love that the culture of movies in Hollywood and, how we look at this stuff is changing. That's so important, but it is still a part of our culture and our world. So in college, college campus sexual assaults, up to 90% of them are through date rape, through this kind of scenario. It happens all the time. And about 95% is with somebody that you know, right? So it's friends, it's colleagues, it's acquaintances, it's partners friends taking advantage of each other to get what they want, which is really scary if you think about it, right? When we think about these scenarios, we're like, oh, it's a stranger at a bar, someone we've never met before is doing this, or someone jumps out of the bushes. But really, that only happens about 5% of the time. 95% of the time, it's somebody that you know. Up to 80% of date rapes with a male perpetrator occur when the woman is intoxicated or the other person is intoxicated. This does not only happen to women. This is not just a women issue. This is an everyone issue. The problem is male survivors rarely come forward. So only about 5% of cases are reported to the police. So all of our statistics are inferred. And from men, I think it's like 0.1% or like 1% of men make reports who this happens to. So a lot of the statistics are based on female survivors and male perpetrators, only because those are the reports that we get. But I do want to make very, very clear that this can happen to anyone. It does not matter gender. It does not matter sexual orientation. It does not matter age, nothing. Socioeconomic status, it does not change anything. This is an everybody issue, which is why it's so important for everybody to know the risks. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So there are over 55 different drugs that people can use to drug a drink or to inebriate somebody. Most recently in the news, we've been talking about ketamine because of Matthew Perry from Friends. Anyone hear about that story?
He drowned.
He drowned. But he was over, what was it? He was like over prescribed ketamine. And so he was taking his ketamine and he drowned. But it knocked him out, like he was unconscious, right? So there are a lot of different things, like I said, that people could put in drinks, that people could drug you with. Since 2016, we've seen an uptick in Visine, like the eye drops. If you put a couple drops of Visine in your drink, pardon my French, but you are going to be on the toilet for a very, very, very long time, and it will not be fun. But if you dump a whole thing of Visine in a drink, it'll knock someone out for 8 to 10 hours. And so that was something, because it's so easily accessible, that was something that we were seeing a lot of, is people getting drugged with Visine. But also, I mean, look at like raves and parties and things like that. Ecstasy, Molly, MDMA, all that stuff is very readily accessible there and used to knock people out, used to take advantage of people. So, I mean, even like antihistamines, right? They're drowsy and non-drowsy. The drowsy ones will knock you out, right? And it puts you in a position where if somebody is dangerous, there's a predator around you, they could take advantage of that, right? And if you put it in a drink, mix it with alcohol, it makes it stronger. And everything on this list is odorless, colorless, and tasteless. So you'd have no idea it was in your drink. There are a lot of signs that you may be experiencing this. Temperature, either like rising or falling. If I'm a very warm person, so when I get cold, that means something is wrong, right? So that body temperature, increasing in like dizziness or tiredness, disorientation, blurred vision, or like slurred speech. If there's any, especially if, let's say I wasn't drinking water, let's say I was having a beer that night, but I know that I can drink a few beers before I start to get woozy and dizzy and slur my speech or like fall over myself. If I have one beer and I'm starting to like fall over or, get dizzy or slur, that's a big indication that something is wrong, right? Because normally I can handle more than that, right? And if you're drinking water or soda or juice that would not give you signs of being drunk, if you start to get that way, like recognize that something is wrong. Or if your friend or whomever you're with starts to get that way, recognize that something is wrong, because it should not be affecting us that way. right? For me, I got sleepy and really confused. Some people pass out. Some people get a sped up or like very slowed down heart rate, right? So it's just being aware of your body and like when something isn't right, noting it, getting help, doing what you need to do to get out of that situation. Right? So if you do feel like you've been drugged, if something is happening, you're having a reaction to something that you normally wouldn't, get out of the situation, whether it's calling 911 or campus police or whomever is close by, or a friend or a family member to come grab you, to come pick you up. Like something's not right. I'm getting really, really tired and I shouldn't be. Get me out of here. This, like, here's my location, right? You just want to, once you're aware that something isn't right, do what you need to do to get out of there. Even if you pass out before they get there, or, you know, you just want to make someone aware of where you are and how to get you safe. Now, if you have been drugged or you wake up not remembering where you are, you wake up with torn clothing, these are definitely signs to be aware that not only did something happen, but, you know, you could have been sexually assaulted. Torn or ripped clothes, or clothes put on backwards, unusual stains, clothes put on inside out, like not the way that you were wearing them the night before. If your body feels like you've had sex, but you don't remember it, that's a big sign that something might have happened. If you have any bruises, like I bruise really easy. So, you know, if the wind blows the right way, I get a bruise. But if you're not an easily bruised person and you have all these mysterious bruises, or you're bleeding, or you're in pain somewhere, these are all signs to take note of that something could have happened and it's important to get it checked out. And when you do, if you do, and you want to get it checked out, there are a bunch of options. So you can go to the campus wellness center or the health center. You can get a SANE exam at a hospital, and you can ask for an advocate. If this happens, asking for an advocate is really important, because that person knows all of the rules, knows all the protocols, can walk you through it and give you your options, and they're there solely to support you. You can get a doctor's appointment. If you don't want to do any of that, you can go to a counselor or talk to a friend or talk to Title IX. You know, there are so many opportunities and so many resources around to help you get through this, and not feel alone, right? But some of the keys, if you are going to go the SANE exam route, is you want to try and keep as much evidence as possible so that you can prosecute if you choose to. So they recommend don't go to the bathroom, don't wash yourself, don't wash your hands, don't throw away anything, because they're going to try and get as much DNA as possible. So that way, if you did decide to move forward in prosecuting, you have all of that available to you. All right. So now 4 tips to stay situationally aware so that you and your friends and your partners can be safe on campus, off campus, wherever you are. So I really pose these as like an on-campus, you know, tip, but it can be utilized anywhere. Like when I go shopping, I will use these tips to make sure that I'm safe in the parking lot, especially if I'm alone at night. I travel a lot by myself. So being situationally aware for me is very, very important, especially when I'm in the middle of nowhere, you know? So number 1, don't be distracted. So when you're walking, I know it's like really customary for us to walk like this now, you know, where we're just always on our phones, but stay off your phone when you're walking alone, right? If it's at night and it's dark, through a campus, down a path, wherever, you know, if you're looking down, you're unaware, right? You're not seeing what's happening around you. So look ahead to your car, to the building you're walking to, wherever, look ahead. And if you stand up straight and have good posture, it deters people from coming towards you. It deters people from trying to attack you because you look solid and you can see everything, right? They want people who aren't paying attention. They're going to go after the people who are sitting on their phones and scrolling and not paying attention to what's happening, because that they are easier to overtake than someone who's walking directly to their car and looking forward, scanning around them. Does that make sense? So the first one is to not be on your phone, to just be very aware. Number 2 is casual earbudding. It's fine to have earbuds in, but it's not fine when it hinders your ability to hear the things happening around you, right? So you don't want your music blasting. So you can keep one in and keep one out so that you can still hear your music, but you can also detect if something is happening around you, right? or put it on a low volume so you can still hear outside. I know now they make a lot of noise canceling headphones, so you can't hear anything outside. That is not, in my opinion, very smart to be walking alone with those on, because it stops you from being able to hear if someone is calling out for you, or if something is happening around you, or if somebody is sneaking up behind you, you'll miss all like the little takes. So you could turn your headphones on passive mode, right? So you could still hear the stuff happening around you. Number 3 is, party awareness. If you don't see it poured, don't drink it. If you leave your drink somewhere, don't pick it back up. And even if you're out, if you didn't see the bartender pour it, you didn't see the person pour it, don't drink it. There was a bar in New Jersey that got in a lot of trouble a couple of years ago because the bartenders were being paid off to drug people. So there were people who were coming into the bar, handing the bartenders like a big tip, like 50 or $100, and a little bag of whatever it was, and said, put these in as many drinks as you can. Don't worry, we'll clean up the mess. And they did. And so people were dropping like flies, and no one could figure out why so many people were getting so intoxicated there. And these people who were drugging these people were just cleaning it up. I'd gone to this bar a few times. I'm not a huge drinker anyways, so I would just kind of go for the pizza because they had really good pizza. But there were people all the time that were like falling over themselves. And I was like, these bartenders are over serving. What I didn't realize is that they were drugging these people, and it wasn't just women, they were drugging men too. So if I came in there with a friend of mine, a male friend, they would drug us both, because then he can't protect me and I am vulnerable, right? So if you don't see it poured, if you don't know who's pouring it, if you put it down, don't pick it back up, don't take it, don't drink it. I have a water bottle with a top on it that I bring everywhere. And if I want to drink, I'll drink out of that because I know that it's safe, right? Or they make like scrunchy top things that you put on top of glasses now that just have a straw hole. So we could even look into getting those, something to just keep your drink safe, because you don't want anybody to put anything in it. You don't want anyone to spike it. You just don't know, right? So being aware of your surroundings and always keeping your drinks alcoholic, non-alcoholic, safe. And number 4, avoid being a target. Like I said, if you have good posture, you walk with purpose, and you're looking around, you look somebody in the eye, if they're like threatening you, they will step back, because you are showing yourself as, I'm not threatened by you. You cannot overtake me, right? So that confidence, that urgency, that, bigness, knowing, like being, making it aware that you're paying attention to your surroundings, right, are all really good ways to deter people. If somebody is standing by your car, or you see somebody that you don't recognize or you don't trust, you get a weird vibe from, you could always ask someone to walk with you, right? There's always campus safety on campus. There are usually adults like professors or staff or whomever on campus that can walk you to your car if you're feeling unsafe, or go in groups, right? There's strength in numbers. One person is not going to attack a group of 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, because they'll be outnumbered, right? So if it makes you feel safer to walk with somebody out to the parking lot or out to your car or to your apartment, someone will do that for you, especially on campus, but even off campus, right? I put up a post a long time ago on Facebook that, if you're in a bar and somebody is making you uncomfortable, shout mom, and I will look up like that. And then you can just come to me, right? And I will protect you. And there are a lot of people that would do that, right? So if you are feeling unsafe or uncomfortable, shout mom, or shout like a name, and go over to, if it makes you feel more safe, a woman or, a family, and just say, hey, can I hang out with you? There's somebody making me uncomfortable. Can I stay here for a few minutes until they go away? And 99 out of 100 times, especially women, will be like, absolutely. Like, we get it, right? We've been there. It has happened to more people than we care to admit, whether something actually like materialized and they were attacked or perpetrated against or assaulted, or we've been put in a position where we're uncomfortable, right? We can relate. And I'm sure a lot of men can as well. but women are at this point more forthcoming about it. So if at any point, does not matter, like I said, gender or anything, if you are uncomfortable, find an older woman or an older person who you feel would be more protective, like have that protective instinct, and go stay with them, right? Until, or have them walk you to your car. Something, just because you don't want to be targeted. So being alone and looking vulnerable, looking at your phone, it all puts a target on your back, right? It goes back to being unaware. Do we have any questions about that at all?
I would never mind anyone yelling at mom. I would be like, totally play it along, like whatever you need. Yeah.
I had a question, but after the mom shit, that just kind of mind fucked me. I'm sorry.
Well, we
I-
can-
We can come back to it if you want. Or do you want a minute to think about it?
Oh, it's fine. Over. Yeah, I'm over here, by the way.
Oh, hi.
So I was kind of poking my arm over there. That was just there.
I'm so sorry. I did not mean, I missed your hand. I didn't see it.
Yeah, no, I was kind of blurting out during it. I just didn't know if the camera could see me or not. Like,
I saw your hand. That was it. So do we have any questions about any of this? Any of the 4 tips?
no, I'm good.
Okay. Oops. Okay. All right. So in summary, in every scenario, assess your level of awareness, right? If you're going to Target and walking around, I'm always just scanning, right? I'm not tense. I'm still very relaxed. I'm just aware of what's happening, right? Asking for consent in every scenario is key because it makes everybody feel safe. We don't want anybody to feel unsafe or uncomfortable with us at any time. Once you put your drink down, don't pick it back up. Or if you haven't seen it poured, don't drink it. You know, taking those measures to be aware of what's happening around you. Knowing your resources and having a plan is really important. So for me, like I said, when I travel, I always have 3 people that have my location. My mom, my husband, and one of my best friends always have my location because you just never know, right? Every time I get in an Uber, I share my ride with my husband because you just don't know, right? So I always have a plan, and I'm always watching what's going on and knowing what's around me. Even if I'm in a place I don't know, I make sure to like have an idea of an escape plan or you know, some resource that's around. And then remember your 4 situational awareness tips. Don't be distracted. Pay attention when you're walking. Casual earbudding, so make sure you can hear the things that are happening around you. Being aware at parties, don't put your drink down. Don't drink something you haven't seen. And if something doesn't feel right, get yourself out of there. And avoid being a target. Posture, urgency, making eye contact are all really good ways to deter someone from feeling like you are a target, right? You are attackable. Real quick. So one of the things that I do when I come to campuses is I'll host a wellness day because topics like this can be really heavy. So having some sort of activity afterwards that's therapeutic and cathartic can really help people process better. So I don't know if that's something, Jamie, that you'd want to have available, whether it's like painting rocks or coloring pages, things like that. It's just a really good way to navigate the processing of all of this heaviness. And that's it for me. Thank you all for participating and talking with me and hanging out. I hope that you have some new information to take away. Before you go, it would be really, really helpful if you wouldn't mind scanning this QR code. It takes you to a quick and easy survey. It's like 6 or 7 questions. And at the very end of it, it'll ask for your email. I will not email you if you put it in, I promise. I find that really, really annoying, but it will send you a free copy of my international best-selling book, The Healing from Emotional Abuse Philosophy, The 3 Keys to Overcoming Narcissism. So thank you very much for having me today and for, like I said, for playing back with me and chatting. And I hope that, you know, moving forward, you have a better idea of how to navigate situations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guys, use that QR code, get a copy of that free book. That'll be good stuff, good stuff.